For this episode of Shaking Through, we recorded legendary punk band, the Dead Milkmen, and their song, Prisoner Cinema. Recording the Dead Milkmen is really fun because, you don't get the sense that this is high stakes or that there's a lot of pressure. These are people who had one existence in the era of major labels, then reformed after that era was long gone and came up with and decided how they were going to go about just doing this for the rest of their lives. You get the sense that they're having a lot of fun. So let's run through the song. You guys want to run through it real quick?
Yeah. I don't know. We just showed up with our instruments and everything because we thought there was a tea dance.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4.
The Dead Milkmen are not the tightest band in the world. And that's not to say that they're sloppy and bad. They have their own rhythmic thing that is not necessarily going to line up on a grid like people would expect it to in this day and age. But it is the Dead Milkmen. When you try to straighten out the Dead Milkmen, they cease to be the Dead Milkmen. That was good.
Let's not call names, but it was great up until then. We could probably just chop that part out. I actually like that take, too. I could live with either of those takes. I mean, first in a platonic relationship, and then we'll see how things work out, and maybe it'll be an engagement, in a small wedding.
Do you guys want to hear those back?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, come on, those last two were great. A lot of bands sort of feel like they're supposed to labor over things. They're supposed to do their parts and then listen back and then scrutinize them. The Dead Milkmen, they don't do any of that. They play the way they play, and then they listen back and say, "Did you guys like that take? I liked it. I liked it. I thought it was good. Let's try one more. Okay." And then they do it. There's not a lot of doubting themselves after the fact. In fact, there's none. There's none. It's not to say we don't work really hard. It's just to say there's certain things you just don't touch because they're perfect as they are. That sounded great.
Cool.
That was fucking, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good
even
take.
With, I even did a slur in there that was unnoticeable, so I didn't go back and fix later on, but that's fine.
So this song had 3 distinctive parts. This tight, almost mono television commercial from the 1970s, and then this sort of punk, almost hip-hop hybrid for verses, and then this big, boomy arena rock chorus.
Each part has this very distinct sound, and changing how the drums sound in each part really kind of drove that point home.
The opening part of the song featured Jill and Matt from this band from Delaware called Hot Breakfast. I really felt this part of the song almost sounded like a commercial.
So the idea was we just got rid of the room mics, got rid of the stereo overhead, basically just stripped it down so it was a mono drum set. We just wanted to sound like a mono drum set from the 70s or something. As soon as it switches to the next part, brought the overheads back in, but still left out the room mics, and then that kind of kept that dry drum sound, but then brought it out of that world of 70s mono recording into just a cool sounding, dry drum set, but in stereo now, and that kind of expanded the song.
And then the third part of the song, the chorus, was really tom-laden and really big and boomy. That part was supposed to almost sound like arena rock.
That's when everything just opens up. That's when the rooms come back in. We also added a gated reverb to the toms just to kind of increase the size of the room and just really make that part just way different than any of the parts in the song. I feel like there's a very stark contrast between all the drum sounds, and I think that the 3 parts of the song sound really distinct from each other.
Where you're standing is perfect, Rodney. So.
Well, thank you. I'm a professional.
So when it came time to do Rodney's vocal, we used the AEA 440 into the A-Design Pacifica preamp and was compressed with the Warm Audio 76.
Rodney, can you look at the mic again one more time?
Can I look at the mic?
Yep.
Okay.
That was it.
Hi.
Thank you.
Hello. I actually, if I want to be loud enough, this is a fun fact about my voice, I can break the diaphragm in a microphone. Yeah, I can actually do that, yeah.
So Rodney, he doesn't so much like sing as he kind of like abrasively talking or like shouting into a microphone. So sometimes from like a recording standpoint, that can be really difficult to capture.
Let's see how this is. Tell us if it doesn't sound, if it's like too quiet or too loud.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Rodney's voice, from my experience, does not sound that good on our Neumann U67. But when we got this AEA 440, it was amazing how good Rodney's voice sounds on that microphone.
What we've got planned is a surprise attack. They will never see it coming. No, they'll never suspect that these little...
It was able to like capture that abrasiveness, but like contain it in a way that like, it wasn't hard to listen to. It was just like, you know it's there and you know that's like, it's achieving that effect of like being aggressive, being in your face, not overstepping that.
Make our friends famous. Let this be the start of our revolution. Let this be the day that we take it all back. Let the writing on the wall be our manifesto. Let this be the day we go on the attack.
Is that it? Yeah. Great, Rodney.
I think that was it.
Very nice. You want to hear it?
Yeah, I'd come in, or
Yeah,
not.
come check it out.
All right.
Sounds awesome. Whew. These four guys are punk legends, but they're in their 50s. So to some extent, I feel like people might be inclined to think, well, what they're doing now couldn't possibly be like what they were doing when they were in their 20s. And it's just not true. The songs are just as crazy and insane, and like the lyrical topics of songs are just as bizarre as they were when Rodney and Joe were little kids.
When you're working with a band that's been doing it that long, the impression that like you can kind of come up with that, like if you're screwing this up, they're gonna have, you know, no qualms about being like, hey, you're doing this wrong, stop doing that, because they've been doing it for so long. But it wasn't like that with them, you know? It was actually really cool, because like they were totally open to like trying stuff out and just being like, yeah, let's see what happens.
It's great for a band like the Dead Milkmen to reform years later in an era where the only reason not to make records would be if you don't like making records and you don't like each other anymore, which neither of those things were true. I love that. I love that about them. Shaking Through is produced by Weathervane Music, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting independent music and the community that surrounds it. Your support helps sustain this series, which creates bold new art and resources to inspire the independent music community. To get involved, go to weathervanemusic.org.